Hello and welcome to the Hub Podcast. My name is Eric Berger, Director of Marketing for Better Good, the maker of VolunteerHub. And today we're continuing our Client Success series and speaking to Liza Heredia, Manager of Volunteer Services for Father Joe's Villages. Father Joe's Villages has been a VolunteerHub client since 2019, and I'm so excited to hear more about the impact that they're making within the San Diego community and how VolunteerHub has helped them streamline their processes. Hey, Liza, how are you today?
Hi, Eric. I'm doing great. Thanks.
Well, that's good to hear, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to speak with me. I'm really excited to learn more about what you're doing at your organization and obviously how you're using VolunteerHub. So, to start things off, can you tell me more about your role and what your day-to-day looks like, especially when it comes to coordinating volunteers?
Yes, thanks. As the manager of volunteer services at Father Joe's Villages, I oversee our volunteer engagement, our daily operations of our volunteer program, and just the strategy behind our work. I feel that my work sits at the intersection of community engagement and direct service. And on a daily basis, I am collaborating with program managers and leaders, addressing any of their volunteer needs, coordinating volunteers across all our departments at our organization, also managing the Volunteer Hub management system, overseeing our volunteer data, and just really ensuring that our goal is that our volunteers are feeling welcomed and connected to our mission. One other unique part of my role is that I serve as the liaison to the Ladies Guild at Father Joe's Villages. And so I support their mission and their fundraising and volunteer efforts and making sure that it aligns with our goals at Father Joe's Villages. So they bring a historical connection to the mission and are also one of our biggest community supporters.
Well, that sounds like a lot to juggle, but I think it gives us great context as we move forward. So, for listeners who may not be familiar with Father Joe's Villages, can you describe the range of programs and services that you provide to neighbors in San Diego?
Absolutely. Yes, Father Joe's Villages. It's the oldest, largest, most comprehensive homeless services provider in our region. Our mission is to prevent and end homelessness one life at a time. And Father Joe's Villages provides healthcare, shelter, permanent housing, behavioral health, recovery programs, workforce training, food services, and programs to all individuals, families, veterans, seniors, and more.
So, you guys are kind of a full range of support, like a full spectrum of support, it sounds like, within the community.
Absolutely. Yes. Something that I find unique and that I'm just so proud of with our organization is that we have a holistic approach when we are helping folks, not just addressing one issue, we're addressing all the needs of an individual while they're on their journey of stability.
And when you're looking at like the big picture, how would you describe the impact Father Joe's Villages has in the community?
Oh, well, we're serving thousands of our neighbors in need every year. And again, as I mentioned, through that holistic approach of meeting them where they're at and also addressing basic needs such as shelter, food, showers, anything that we can provide someone when they are experiencing homelessness. We also are creating pathways towards self-sufficiency and towards their stability.
Do you have some key numbers or outcomes that can help kind of illustrate the impact, like people housed, meals served, or individuals supported, anything like that?
Of course, yeah, I have some stats here. In 2025, we welcomed more than 2,100 men, women, and children into housing. We served 9,000 hungry neighbors a meal. 407 families received services through our programs. We engaged with over 36,000 patients through our village health center, and we provided over 20,000 showers through our San Diego Day Center. And also we serve up to 1 million meals throughout the year.
Wow. So a massive scale of service is what you're saying.
Yes.
And to support that level of impact, how many volunteers or volunteer roles do you engage with in a year?
The numbers are just in. I'm proud to say that last year we engaged with over 6,300 volunteers who contributed more than 78,000 hours.
Wow, that's a huge volunteer community. And in order to engage that many volunteers, how important is a volunteer management solution?
Oh, well, we wouldn't be able to provide the care and the number of services to our community without a volunteer management system that we're using today.
And to kind of step back, what kind of roles do volunteers fill within the programs that you guys provide?
So I mentioned our organization serves up to 1 million meals annually. So our largest base is in meal services. So we serve 3 meals daily. So we need volunteers every single day so they can start there. And it's great because we can utilize students and younger volunteers all the way up to folks who are retired are helping serve meals. And then our day center, we have folks who are handing out mail and providing information. And then our child care center also has volunteers who provide tutoring services and engage with the kids. And so those are some of the basic needs that are being met in our population. But then we also have volunteers who could help with special events, beautification projects, holiday initiatives through our Ladies Guild. There's just so many options and a range of opportunities.
I love when there's something for like everyone at a nonprofit.
Yes.
So that's really cool. And if we can kind of go back to Volunteer Hub, so I have some Volunteer Hub related questions. Before implementing Volunteer Hub in 2019, do you know what the biggest challenges were that were faced in like recruiting, scheduling, or just managing volunteers as a whole?
Oh, yes. Before Volunteer Hub, we felt like we were pushing a square wheel. We relied on an old program that a volunteer created in 2000 through Microsoft Access. And I don't even know if Microsoft Access exists still.
Yeah, we're going way back in time. Way back in time.
So we relied heavily on manual processes, email communication, spreadsheets, and paper sign-in sheets. The organization and the volunteer base was growing, and these simple manual systems were so hard to manage with just 2 coordinators. So scheduling, tracking hours, maintaining communication, it was all challenging before Volunteer Hub.
So talk to me a little bit about those challenges. So like how did a manual process affect the communication, shift coverage, like the volunteer experience?
So not having something modernized and organized like Volunteer Hub, we felt unorganized. We weren't able to ensure that everyone was being reminded of their upcoming events. We're talking about 10,000 plus volunteers annually at that time, and just 2 coordinators. So we were not able to reach everyone. I mean, we were able to coordinate, obviously, all these folks to come and support our mission, but the engagement, the follow-up, the retention, it just wasn't there. So we relied heavily on folks just interested in coming back. It was very hard to have the efforts to follow up and ensure that everyone was having a positive experience or learning from their experiences. So there was a huge gap in communication. We just didn't have the time and the capacity to connect with everyone.
And I know in conversations with our client success manager, you've mentioned that volunteers often comment on how accessible the system is, talking about Volunteer Hub, especially new volunteers. What feedback do you hear the most about the platform?
The most consistent comment or feedback I receive is how easy it is. And this is from all ages of our volunteer population. So I think that accessibility is important. especially in today's day and age where folks are on their mobile devices, on their tablets, more than a computer. And we have a lot of elderly volunteers. And so when I hear that they're telling me it's easy to sign up and for multiple dates and all these things, and it just makes it easier for them to come back, that's a win. That's what also helps with retention. When the first experience on our site through Volunteer Hub is easy, that's also part of the retention.
And talking about accessibility, how important is mobile access to your volunteers?
100% important. I think today's day and age, I could probably say the majority of our volunteers are signing up and viewing and browsing the site on their mobile devices. So that is the number one tool. So it's important that the site is user friendly.
Yeah, I think the flexibility matters so much. And I know in other conversations too with our client success manager, you mentioned how often your team is in Volunteer Hub each day. How does Volunteer Hub support you across multiple shifts and programs?
Well, I have to say, yes, we open up Volunteer Hub right with our email every day because it helps us with communication. We're also able to allow other department leads to utilize Volunteer Hub. They're able to start their day. They log into Volunteer Hub. For instance, our warehouse team, they need volunteers every day as well. So they're able to access the site, see who's coming in, see their regulars, see a new corporate group that's coming in and prepare for that. So I feel that it just helps all of us across the board prepare for our day and how we engage with volunteers. And then also we can learn, we're able to use the site and learn from it, such as folks aren't showing up for a shift, then we can have those conversations with them. And then also it shows like a care for folks too when we're checking in with them. So I feel like it's across the board, it just helps us to connect with our volunteers, especially for an organization like ours where human service is one of our main focus.
Yeah, and I think volunteer adoption is so important, but so is like your team's ability to adopt a solution. So, what was your experience like learning and implementing Volunteer Hub?
It was overwhelming at first because, again, we're going from pushing a square wheel to something shiny and new, but also not wanting to mess it up. I mean, we're working with thousands and thousands of people and 20 plus programs for our organization. So there was this responsibility of making sure everything was just set up correctly and again the usability and user friendly and just having something that was flexible for us was such a relief. It took some time, but also using the YouTube videos for Volunteer Hub, those were so helpful. The training videos, they were so helpful because we could stop those videos, learn, put it into practice, and then build out our site, which was so helpful. And I do realize that every organization is going to have and need their own customizations to their site. So I absolutely appreciated the flexibility of using Volunteer Hub in the beginning and learning. And also a big shout out to the support. I probably would have been more discouraged if I didn't have the support from the representatives that we connected with regularly. And beyond, even when everything was already implemented, I mean, to this day, we still go back and ask support for information or guidance.
When you look at other platforms, other volunteer management platforms, like what stands out about Volunteer Hub?
I'm a visual person, so I've noticed that over time, Volunteer Hub has continued to modernize certain parts of its site and functionality. That is very appealing to me. So if a site doesn't seem to work smoothly or is not visually appealing, I will lose interest. So I put myself in the place of other people. So it's really important that something is visually just modernized, clean, simple. So that's what I initially notice about other sites is like where the buttons are, the functions to navigate the site. Does it make sense So there has to be, someone has to have a real keen eye when they're building out the system, and just what the Volunteer Hub looks like is really important to anyone else who is a client of the system or of the program.
And I just have a couple more questions. And one is, where do you feel the most value is being realized with Volunteer Hub?
It would have to be in the way that the volunteers are able to browse the events and filter through. We tend to get less questions and folks reaching out to us once they realize that they can filter out events and find events that have open slots. I think giving volunteers the option to browse independently and look at events, filter things out, probably is the most successful and valuable part of the system. Volunteers love being in control of what they can sign up for. And yeah, that seems to be pretty important.
How would you describe your return on investment overall from Volunteer Hub?
Well, I have to say that time, the investment in time, the investment in our schedule, in the team. Volunteer Hub has strengthened our engagement with volunteers. It allows us to post all of our needs, all of the new opportunities. It's helped us improve retention and volunteers. It provides us an option to look at measurable data. It also shows that it demonstrates community impact by being a connection to our communities. So connecting our communities to our mission. So again, people's time, our time, it has a monetary value to it.
I love that answer. So, for listeners in San Diego who are inspired by this conversation, what's the best way to get involved to volunteer with your organization? Can you walk through the process?
Yeah, it starts with just going to our main website for Father Joe's Villages. It's my.neighbor.org. And there is a volunteer tab that there's all kinds of tabs that people can look into. Just like any website, there's an About Me, so they can learn more about the organization through there. Access to some of our podcasts that we've presented in the past, as well as how to donate, special events, fundraising events. We do have things like our Thanksgiving turkey trot that people could participate or volunteer for. But we do have a volunteer tab, and it also has access to how to join our Ladies Guild. And so it's an online submission. You can just put your name in. If you're with a company or a group, you can also submit that information. And so one of our coordinators will reach out pretty quickly. We're pretty quick about getting back to anyone who sends us an inquiry just to learn more or get information.
All right, Liza. Well, I just want to sincerely thank you for taking the time to join me today and sharing more about the incredible work that Father Joe Villages is doing, hearing about the scope of your programs, the role volunteers play, and the real impact you're making in the San Diego community has been truly inspiring. I'm grateful for the work you and your team are doing every day, and I'm happy to hear that Volunteer Hub plays such an important part of your processes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eric.